Are we live? We are live. Cool. Alright, let's pull this up. Mute that. Have that for my... Okay. Alright. Refresh. Grab that. Then... Something that I need to do that earlier, but... I was just finishing my breakfast. I've been feeling rather rough these last couple of days. Let's see if Portal is going to behave this morning. What do you know? Bum 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 bum. Okay, 8:30. Roster. Email. Oh, it sends it to your... Well, whatever. Class time. Holy there. Everyone. Class time. Once again. URL is as follows. May want to consider just having my channel. I don't. I'm blanking on words here. Saved till the end of the semester. All right. Cool. All right, I'm going to sit back a moment and digest. Hopefully, the... Oh, good. Everything's sort of behaving. Here, let me see if I can bump... Oh, this is Gmail. Not live. Yes, I'm aware of that. Bump the quality down ever so slightly. Hopefully not enough to make it unreadable, because... What's that medium? It's fine. It doesn't matter if it buffers a little bit, because... I mean, I'm not playing a fast-paced action game or anything. Yeah. I'm going to kick back for just a minute. Let anybody that's actually going to try to show up come in. And we'll get started. Hey, these last couple of days have been kind of bleh. It's either been migraine or stomach ache caused by just having to take so many migraine meds. So that's been fun. What do you want? I know. Oh, it's fine, dumbass. That's... What are you afraid of? What made you jump? The blanket that's been there the whole time? Is this new? You're a doofus. I love you. Hey. You're my lovely doofus boy. My lovely doofus boy. Alright. Well, I can't put it out too long. And hell, I don't even know if people are showing up to this class. You have to figure something out about that. I have to do that Zoom thing, which, I mean, like, I understand that, some people just don't have access to the internet. Like, it's just not something everybody has, and that's fair. And I'm not going to assume that's something everybody can do. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and move on. Get this going. Have the video for later. So, we had the social mobility in the turn of the century here, or the end of the century, as Fin to say, whatever. It's French. The end of the century, higher wages, new job positions, an expanding middle class, so lawyers, doctors, shopkeepers. The major force behind this was education. So, of course, this depended on where you were, but it also depended on your class. Now, as we've mentioned before, the class structure in the world at this time wasn't a matter of nobility anymore. It was a matter of wealth. Now, that still often had to do with birth, because if you're born into a rich family, you're going to automatically be you're automatically going to have an advantage over those born into a working class family. So, you can't say, oh, well, people can go from nothing to really rich in a single lifetime. It's like, that's literally happened, you can count it on like one hand. And there was some improvement in the lots of life for women. Many were able to work independently. And then there was the suffragettes, which, as I mentioned, the British suffragettes were really great. That's a whole separate topic that I wish we had more time to talk about, because they were fun. Let me grab my stuff here. That to the side. We don't need that right now. Got so much papers and shit. Okay. Oh, that'd be nice. Bum, 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 bum. That's my sculpture. That's what we're doing next. Okay. So, as I said, education was the major driving force behind the social mobility. And again, I like these images because, this is a primary source document. This is literally, here are a bunch of children at the time. And, there a lot of them, clearly some of these faces very mischievous. Some of them weren't paying attention. Some of them don't want to be there. Uh, you know, kids. And then women in the workplace doing this new middle class work, the typewriters and whatnot. And then the suffragettes, which went from, oh, we're having, meetings tonight, to, we're going to burn this town down. They were great. All right, on to mass culture. So, newspapers were now cheaper to print, and people were more literate. Anyway, literacy was more prevalent, I suppose, rather than people were more literate. So this idea of mass culture began to spread. So basically, hey, we can print more newspapers to a wider reading audience. What will sell more newspapers? So this idea of scandal, sensationalist stories, affairs, exotic travels, murder trials, rather than just regular news things. Again, a student, I believe in my other class, mentioned yellow journalism. Again, technically, that term comes a little bit later. We are right about the time that does show up in America. And that was due to the Spanish-American War. But, yeah, that was specifically due to the Spanish-American War. And actually, the reason it was called yellow journalism wasn't a racist thing, because it wasn't against the Asiatic people. But, because at the time, the paper that was being sourced was yellow by default and had to be bleached white. So if they just took it yellow, printed it, and sent it out, it was cheaper. And since they were trying to get this stuff out the door as quickly as possible and as cheaply as possible, they just kept it yellow. So if you went to the newspaper stand and found, newspapers that were yellow, not yellowed like old, but just is printed on yellow paper, that's the sensationalist newspaper that's just trying to get it out there. That's the yellow journalism. Now you know. Music was more. Try this again. Music was more widely available. This is something that we've been heading towards since, like, the Renaissance. It wasn't restricted to the church or royal court. Music halls, public houses, which is to say pubs. That's where the term pub comes from. It's a public house. Brought this working class citizens in, and they'd listen to the reproductions of music and songs. Yeah, okay, we'll do that in a minute. Actually, I'm going to back that up. In Ireland, I know at least in one old pub that I was in, it was the tradition that uh, I'm out of orange juice. It was the tradition that if you came in with your buddies and had instruments and we're gonna make music and sing and whatnot, as long as you kept entertaining everybody, they bring you free beer until you couldn't entertain anymore. So I imagine that probably started around this point. It's like, hey, we can't afford to pay you, but we'll bring you beer. And I mean, Ireland. Visual arts, they were building new and affordable museums. Um, and then this is when we also had dry plate photography. Now, as I may have mentioned, I don't remember if we spoke too much about photography itself, but photography had been a whole production before this. You had to have the camera, which was massive, um, and then the big piece for the flash, which was almost gunpowder. And then it had the film, which was built inside of the camera, and then you had to send that off to have it developed. Dry plate photography at least made the film easier to deal with. And then, after 1895, we got the first motion pictures. Now, again, it wasn't just immediate where it's like, oh, there's movies everywhere. Um, but after 1895, motion pictures became a thing. Like, now again, they existed before this point in a sort of experimental state. It's argued that Thomas Edison invented them, or at least somebody working under him, like the rotoscope thing. But as far as like you go to a building and it's being projected on a screen for entertainment, rather than you go to the little peep shows as they were called, because you'd have to look down into this machine, and it was just a series of like flashing images that had music playing. Um, this was a change in the culture, in how people consumed entertainment. Oh, I could have sworn. Why do I not have? Huh? I have to have the painting somewhere. Yeah. Okay. Modernism. Yeah. Okay. I've got the paintings probably in the next section. Because I mean, we're talking about bloody Picasso here. I've got to have the paintings. Anyway, yeah, Art Nouveau, symbolism, all that nonsense. Anyway, okay, so that's the overall layout of mass culture, um, newspapers, music, visual arts, motion pictures. Now, modernism um, was seen as uh, the avant-garde, the head of the rest, which is what avant-garde stands for. Uh, the the people that were, I guess, more refined in terms of the culture. Uh, you've got your mass culture. This is for everybody. This is for well, obviously the masses. But the modernism, the actual the artists that you sit and study would be this. So modernism itself discussed the ideas of the deep drives of subconscious. Um, it accepted that these were mysterious, and many things about the world were unknowable. So rather than uh, like we talked about with romanticism of using some sort of almost mystical thought, it's just there's stuff we don't know, and that's part of the world and part of even ourselves. In art, we had Art Nouveau, which was simply meant new art, which is a terrible name, but thankfully, since it's you know in French, it can stick around. Um, so we had Art Nouveau and symbolism. Art Nouveau uh, is I should have a number of images to show you guys, but it's a lot of swirls and very organic looking images. And then with symbolism, we had symbolic images, obviously, such as the Sphinx, that represented the mysteries of the human mind. Because, I mean, even today, we don't entirely know what the Sphinx stood for the Egyptians. And that divide between modern day Europe, and when I say modern day, I mean like as far back as, well, I mean, I guess Napoleon, um, or even Alexander, and ancient Egypt, which is to say, you know, thousands of years ago. We don't know. We don't know what it was for, and even with what we can translate of the hieroglyphics, it still we have lost so much when it comes to Egypt, which I guess is why I mean, I hate to say it, why like Egypt has never really spoken to me as a historical landmark, because it's like there's just a lot of crap we don't know, and while that's really cool, at the same time it's like, but there's not much you can do with it now. It's just like, oh, we don't know. Okay, cool. So, okay, what now? So it's really depressing, is what it is. Which I guess is why I don't even want to think about it. It's like it makes me sad. Literature. Oh boy. Focused on the impending disaster. Europe was reaching newer and greater heights, faster and faster. Um, there was this there was this impending sense of doom in Europe, because all the countries were becoming more and more powerful, but they were all still mashed together and not necessarily outright opposing one another, but it wouldn't take much for them to turn on one another. And few people outright saw World War One coming, but a lot of people were like, something's gonna happen, and when it happens, it's gonna be bad. Um, there was Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray, this decadent aristocrat who would temporarily escape his life of vice, and then eventually met disaster in the end. I've actually not read The Picture of Dorian Gray. I feel like I probably ought to. It would work well with one of my characters that I built. But yeah, he actually had a painting in his attic of himself, a portrait, and uh, it would. I knew it would age instead of him. I'm trying to remember what else, if there was anything more to it than that. Okay, so here's this is actually in the book. Arnold Bachlin, Isle of the Dead, uh, mythological themes, real modernist, sorry, the surreal rendering of a Mediterranean scenery. Contemplate the elemental mystery of death. Sigmund Freud and Vladimir Lenin each had a copy. So this is, I mean, I guess you'd call it crossing the sticks in a way. It's got lots of symbols to it that, again, I don't have a ton of background on artistic representation. So, or artistic symbolism, I should say. So I can't just sit here and be like, oh, well, this means this and that means that. But, I'm sure like the number of archways means something and the number of trees means something and like everything in here is symbolic. Okay, here is an Art Nouveau piece. This is from Alphonse Muha. Uh, a lot of his pieces, even though they're considered legitimate works of art today, a lot of his pieces were uh, commissions for uh, ads. This is an ad for a cigarette company. She's, as you can see, she's got the cigarette there, the smoke swirling up. But it works for his art style. It's got the swirls. It's got that very organic movement to it. And I just wanted to add this in because why not? If you get it, good for you. If you don't worry about it. But even to this modern day, a lot of people use the Art Nouveau style for different characters. Anyway, so a number of artists left Europe to, quote, be rid of everything that is artificial and conventional. Arthur Rimbaud and Paul Gauguin. Gauguin? Yeah. Let me see what I've got. A favorite trading coffee. Huh. Huh. So I was just reading about the two of them and to see if they actually just died horribly in what they were doing. It seems like they made it okay. Um, Others remained within Europe and tried to escape convention by challenging it. We had Pablo Picasso, his Les Desmaiselles, Demoiselle, de Avignon. I've got that image. We'll talk about that in a minute. It definitely broke with the convention, as we're going to see. It viewed the subjects as though through a pane of broken glass, often using African masks as inspiration. We'll We'll get into that in a moment. Don't mind my bare feet. I'm not putting on shoes to sit here on my couch. It's warm in the house. I don't feel like worrying about it. Architecture, though, went in quite a different direction. Let's see, I think we've got, yeah, we do have it here, the Fagus Factory. Walter Gropius's Fagus Factory, it used form and function to create a utilitarian structure. However, it had a lot of open space for windows, which allowed in natural light. Now, I know it's like, okay, big deal, but that was very different for architecture at the time. I'll show you guys what it looks like here in a minute. And it's, I mean, it looks like a regular, old factory or whatever, but again, this was early in the 1900s, and it was pretty revolutionary. So we have, yeah, here we go. Poetry, William Butler Yeats. He is Irish, and the Irish love this man. I mean, obviously, they're proud of anything that comes out of Ireland. W.B. Yeats, when I was in Ireland, like, anytime, I mean, of course, there's museums in about every city, but if they had a section for poetry, it was just him. But the mysterious and mythological, let's see. And then your music, such as Russian ballet, polarized the crowds in Paris. We had roaring approval to literal riots of outrage. So, Russian ballet, which was sent to Paris because they figured, that'd probably be where you'd get the best audience. Either had people, nearly tearing the house down cheering, or nearly tearing the house down in outrage, and would often go outside and continue to riot because Paris. That's a thing. Parisians, man. Parisians are nuts. So this is the Picasso piece, the Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. So here's the thing, like, now he's representing them through broken glass, as if you're looking at them through, a window or a door with a window pane that's broken, because they are, I mean, they're sorry. I'm reading the thing here to see if there's just any better way of, or a better way of putting it. I mean, these were often, dancers or performers. But the thing is, that's one of multiple jobs in that line of work. And one of the other jobs for that is sex worker at this point in time. And that's typically not a healthy line of work in the early 1900s, or, usually at all. Without proper safety nets. So, He made this painting in this way, as if through broken glass, to depict what he believed was, a broken life, as it were. Now, I'm not a fan of most modern art, because usually it's splotches of paint on a canvas, and that does nothing for me. When it makes sense, when it's something like this, something like we're going to see with Guernica a little bit later, sure. But that's just me. Alright, here's the Focus Factory. Again, now this is the early 1900s. You see the building back here where it's just like concrete and the little windows like that. That's how buildings were normally built. But then he built these with mostly windows to have it so you can just have all the light coming in from outside during the day. You don't have to have any kind of internal lighting. Because again, this is early 1900s, so yes, incandescent lighting was a thing, but it was expensive and maybe not widely available yet. So, there you go. Plus, stuff like this was still considered an architectural milestone. Around here, it would just get really hot during the day. Ah, yes, and I was just like, oh, well, Russian ballet. Let's see if it says something here. Yeah, here we go. The harsh dissonance of Russian composer Ivan Stravinsky's primitive tone poem "Rite of Spring." That's a really famous one. Jesus, Rite of Spring it's 1913. Provoked a riot on its premiere in Paris in 1913. So, yeah. Jesus Christ. Yeah, Paris. Alright, on to the sciences. Oh, yeah, we've got time. So Emil Durkheim was concerned about the increased rates of suicide in the West, which he attributed to anomie. This idea of alienation which was a result of the loss of cultural glues that held society together. Right, let me see if I can. Yeah, due largely to this whole industrialization thing. We had Gustave Le Bon discuss the behavior of crowds, loss of individual reasoning to how leaders could direct mobs. That's actually the each chapter, by the way, has a has an ending source document, which is to say a primary source document. My hair is getting long and I can't do nothing about it. And actually, it's Gustave Le Bon's The Crowd, which is actually a quite a good little read. If you guys have the book, which you should. Right. Which is to say, the it said that the in the IQ of a crowd is that of its lowest member. So, like when you have a large group of people who are becoming agitated, who are becoming, rowdy, and they're starting to sort of move together as a group. Um, their reasoning, their individual reasoning decreases, is what he says. And so, someone who normally would be reasonable might be willing to do something, I guess you'd say, less reasonable. This one, Sigmund Freud, happened. Consider the subconscious fears and desires of human psyche. That's as far as I'm going with Sigmund Freud. We know who Sigmund Freud is. He had a lot of ideas. Some of them were interesting. Some of them were weird. What you want, kitty? Andre Bergson described the brain as not operating according to logic, but was fluid. And I mean, anybody that knows people knows that people don't operate logically most of the time. Um, did I skip Nietzsche entirely? Oh, no, I didn't. Yeah. Louis Pasteur developed vaccinations for rabies and anthrax, and heating milk and wine to prevent bacterial growth, so pasteurization. For some reason, I've been seeing like videos of people drinking milk I mean, not like directly, but immediately after milking a cow. Don't do that. There's a reason. We pasteurize milk. Just FYI. Like, I don't feel like I shouldn't need to say that, but here we are. Max Planck, Niels Bohr, Albert Einstein went well beyond Newtonian physics, created the probable rather than the certain. So going beyond regular Newtonian physics rather than, stuff that's within laws, we had, well, you've got probability and these much larger equations and potential things. I mean, it's just so much beyond even what I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, it even says just in physics, Max Planck, Niels Bohr, and Albert Einstein laid the foundations for relativist theory. And then Friedrich Nietzsche, philosopher, spoke of will to power, lay behind all philosophies and religions. Nietzsche is used for a lot of things. Yeah, either pessimistic philosophy or heroic self-fashioning, which, I mean, both are pretty Yeah, moral relativism. Anyway. And also, went mad in 1889. Well done. Also, lots of lots of racism in his work. So, FYI. Um, Nietzsche's work, such as On the Genealogy of Morals, seems to romanticize social Darwinist worldview in which the strong defeat the weak and humanity is better off for it. You know, good stuff. So, you've got your Sigmund Freud and your I don't even have everybody's names here. Henri Bergson. I think that one was Louis Pasteur. I've even got this stuff backed up. It doesn't matter. Okay. Economies. It's so weird doing this not in front of a classroom. I don't like it. I mean, I don't mind not having to drive 30 minutes to teach for a couple of hours and then drive 30 minutes back, but I mean, I'm gonna sit beside my cat. Poke, poke. Ignore me, fine. That's how it is. But still, I mean, according to my thing here, there's like nobody in here. And, I mean, I know you guys are normally the silent class, but at least I know you're in the room. So, as far as the economy at this time, which again, remember, this is the build up to World War One. Even though things were doing well for everybody, competition was at an all-time high. Investments and exchanges were making and losing fortunes almost overnight. Take that. I don't really need it until I start getting this stuff graded, which I should probably do here before too long. By the way, well, I'll do that in a class. Large groups produce the same product, would band together to form cartels to run rival competitors out of business, by pushing prices too low for rivals to make a profit, because, why not? We, of course, had corruption. Capitalist investors would gladly pay politicians to push their own interests, because, of course. I mean, and I guess we're still talking about history here. I was like, oh yeah, things used to be terrible, but it's like, rampant capitalism. Increased farming in the Americas, Southeast Asia, and Africa drove a lot of European farmers out of business. So more peasants went to the cities to make a living, which further increased pressure there. All right. The Second Industrial Revolution. We briefly mentioned this before. Now we'll talk about it in greater detail. So, the first Industrial Revolution was characterized by steam and iron, if you want to to simplify it. You've got your steam engines, and most stuff was made out of iron. The second industrial revolution used gasoline, and steel, a more refined version of iron. Okay, I was gonna say, did somebody actually? It's Moe's. Where are we at? Now, similarly, this revolution didn't just happen everywhere. It's not like, on this date everybody had the same thing. That's just not the way technology moves. I mean, again, Russia didn't have the first industrial revolution until like World War II. And by that I mean like by the time the Germans were invading. So of course, Great Britain, the U.S., and Germany were the first major producers during this time. Uh, owed to the skilled workforce and the technology that they already had. Steel ships and buildings. They also the big of course the big ships and the buildings were what we think of because that was the easiest to see, and those are things that are often still around today. But like with the first industrial revolution, where textiles were what drove it economically, what drove this economically was consumer goods, soap and soup. For two examples, though, it wasn't just soap and soup, but if it was small, if you could mass produce it, and usually if you could put it in a can. I know soap usually. I mean, hell, I don't know. Maybe they had canned soap. Who knows? Okay, go. Hey, little baby girl. Where's my brain going? Right. Small consumer goods, mass produced. And again, if it usually food items that you could just put in a can, seal up, and send out the door, that was actually what drove the second industrial revolution in terms of economy. Again, the big, massive ships, the steel framed buildings, all very important, but not what actually was what people were usually in the factories building. Also, and this is an entirely it's a whole page. Let me be that cat's ass. This was when the department store was first developed. This idea of bringing a bunch, excuse me, because of having items that were non-perishable, the canned food, mass-produced, and easily transported thanks to the railroads, rather than having mom and pop stores, just bring them all to a single place and having a bunch of stores under a single roof, and thus we got the first department stores. The first one being in France. well, it says one of the new department stores, Villa de Paris. This was 1840s. So this was well earlier than this stuff, but cool. Oh, do I not? Oh, well, okay, hold on. So these are some of the ships that were built during this time. This one's obviously a British one. You can see the flag there at the front. This, I believe, was a Dreadnought class. Because in World War One, it was battleships, not there were no aircraft carriers. Well, I don't think there were any aircraft carriers in World War One. If there were, they were. You didn't want to mess with that because there were barely aircraft, and the aircraft carriers were just like flat ships, and you hope for the best. There were, and it was just as I described. There were flat ships, and you hope for the best. Okay, yeah. This is Galerie Lafayette in Paris. This was rebuilt or this was built during Baron Haussmann's rebuilding of Paris in 1893. So this is right around the time of all of this. So cool. Yeah. Obviously, this is decorated for Christmas. It's gaudy as fuck, but you know, there you go. I mean, the Christmas tree is one thing. I hate the floating presents. That just looks awful. I better turn it before I get nauseous. Okay. The social question. Oh yeah, we're gonna have to stop before we get to the Russo-Japanese War because I'm gonna. Well, maybe. We were almost done with this chapter. We won't be able to finish today, but. Oh, my stomach hurts. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. What do you want, cat? Hmm? No. So, people were making more money. Who dares? Okay. Uh, People were making more money, but the working classes were still on the bottom, barely making enough money to get by, working long hours. So, I mean, you can make more money, but if the cost of living is going up faster than, your, excuse me, then your, geez, sorry, I'm feeling like garbage again. If the cost of living is going up faster than your income, then it doesn't matter if you're making more money. Like, if I made, I don't know, $20 an hour, which is, I mean, not this job, the other job, which is much more than I'm making there. But suddenly, gas was $5 a gallon, and food was twice as expensive, and electricity and all of that. If everything went up by like double when I'm getting, maybe 50% more. If everything went up 200% and I'm getting 50% more, then I'm not making more money. percentage-wise is the thing. So the satisfaction led many to join radical parties like the socialists or communists, which are different things. We'll get to that in a minute. Others joined trade unions. The most successful was the labor strike. 1889, London dock strike had 10,000 workers rallying in Trafalgar Square. As I said, that was the big square because, Trafalgar was a big deal for the British. Unlike most strikes, though, this one was successful because supporters raised money to support the workers during the strike. Eventually, there was a minor increase in wages, which was more than most strikes accomplished. Usually, they just waited until the workers ran out of money and were starving and were willing to go back to work. So there's the Trafalgar Square dock strike. London dock strike, rather. We'll talk about the difference in the parties in a little bit. Oh, here we go. So, Marx and Engels have put together the International Working Men's Organization in 1864 wanted to unite workers from across national borders against the liberal overlords. However, nationalism ended up being stronger than this idea of worker unity. German workers identified more strongly with fellow Germans than they did with French workers, and so on. So they refounded in 1889 as the Second International. This was split between the Orthodox Marxists, believe the overthrowing capitalism was the only way forward, and the revisionists, who wanted to work for better wages and conditions within the system. They became known as the Democratic Socialists, Revisionists, and the Communists, or Revolutionary Socialists. And eventually even the Communists had kind of a split in that, once we overthrow the government, we need to govern. And then the even more radical communists were like, we just got to keep having revolution. It's like, but what are you going to do after that? Have more revolution. It's like, but no. You have to govern after revolution. It's like, fucking hell. Okay, sure. So yeah. So this is the difference between socialism or democratic socialism and what's known as communism. Because of the Cold War and the fight against Russia for like 50 years. Certain groups in America like to just equate the two, and that's not just ignorance, but like they know they're being ignorant about it. But even beyond that, there were the anarchists who just like, let's get rid of the governments entirely. Burn it all down. Which I don't know, man. Hell, at the end of the day, no, that's a little beyond. But again, you get certain groups like, oh, they're all anarchists. Like, do you know what that word means, though? Do you really? Do you really, though? Okay, Um, I'll talk about the Russo-Japanese War next time, because I really want to talk about that in detail. So, um, before we get to that, since there's like hardly anybody in here, I'm still gonna talk about it. Um, for those of you that haven't sent me the test back yet, that's fine. Send it to me, by like midnight tonight. I said it's due today. I mean today. Sometime. I don't mean like before the end of class, because I'm gonna be a hard ass about it. Because that would technically give the other class, like this class period, to get it done, and that's extra time that you guys wouldn't have, and that's not fair. Um, so yeah, all day. I don't care. Um, I'm going to get your papers graded first. Uh, get that in my grade book. Try and get that all up on Blackboard ASAP. Um, then I'll get the test graded. Get those up on Blackboard. Um, if I don't know how to, I want to try to figure out some way to do a discussion on that if I can. Um, yes, I did, Gary. Um, you're literally the only one here. Yes. I got yours. I believe yesterday. I got yours this morning. Yes. Wait. No. Yes. Yesterday. Yesterday morning. Because today's not Monday. I'm dumb. Yeah. Yeah. You're good. Thank you. Um. Yeah. So. I'll get through those. If there's any issues with me being able to access them, I'll email you guys back. Uh, we'll um, we'll take care of that. Uh, yeah, I think that's it. Hopefully, I mean, I know this semester has been weird. Um, I mean, again, the higher ups, the administration within Francis Marion has been like, everything's nuts. Be gentle on your students. Which I don't try to be a hard ass on you guys. I understand. Um, Also, apparently the drop date is now like the last day of class. So if you feel like you need to drop at any point, um, do what you got to do. I'll make sure to let the other students know as well. Um, Although you guys should have gotten an email about that. I think they said they sent an email out as well, but just in case. I think that's it. We'll get into the Russo-Japanese War next time. And I mean, I don't mean to make it look like I'm focusing on the wars, but the Russo-Japanese War is another, like, it should have gone one way, but it went so far the other way, it was ridiculous, and I find those amusing. Um, so we're gonna do that. Um, but yeah, I think that's it. I don't know if I've got anything else. I meant to try and look into Zoom, but like I said, I felt like garbage since like Thursday or Friday. So I've just been trying to not vomit on myself all weekend. It's been great. Anyway, um, yeah, I guess I'll see you guys on Thursday, and yeah. If you haven't sent me your test yet, just send it in by like later tonight. If you have, uh, I probably got it. I mean, like I said, Gary, I got yours. So you're good. I have gotten a lot. I mean, heck, I got one on Thursday last week. So, I mean, I've been getting them throughout the weekend into this morning, actually. Uh, I got a lot of them yesterday. I think some people were thinking I meant like it's got to be, before midnight when Monday night. It's like, no, guys, Tuesday. Don't worry about it. Um, I as soon as I can, I was gonna print them out, and then I remembered that they're not getting back to you guys. Like I was gonna print them out because I'm like, oh, we'll meet back within a few weeks, and then everything will be normal again. But then the decision was made that like we're not meeting back for the rest of the semester. So, um, I just got my knee in the shot the whole time. Uh, I'm gonna just download them onto my laptop and read through them and jot the grade down, and I'll put them in Blackboard. And once I get them all done, I guess I'll just send out a mass email and be like, "Hey guys, by the way, the grade's done. It's on Blackboard." So, hopefully, uh, by like next week, because I've got even during my time off, like I'm doing other crap, but at work I should be able to make myself do it. But I'll try and get it done this week. Okay, I'm gonna go. Have get ready for my next class. Hey buddy, and yeah. So hope you all have a good day, good next couple of days, and I'll see you guys on Thursday. Um, Stay safe, stay healthy. Hope you and yours hang in there. It's been weird. Like I like not going out and dealing with stuff, but even I'm feeling weird about all of this. So yeah. Anyway, um, I need to stop talking. I'll see you guys later. Let me find my computer here. Yeah. Okay. Take care, you guys. Bye.